Online dating and the rise of the dating apps is a trend that looks set to continue long into the future. Now, it's no secret that Tinder is the reigning king of this industry at the moment, but does that mean that it's the right app for you? Well, odds are it probably isn't. In today's video, I'm going to look at a range of Tinder's competitors, and I'm going to let you know in what situations you're best off sticking with Tinder, and in what situations you're better off going with one of the competitors, which one that might be, and why. Keep watching to find out. So there are two absolute truths about Tinder. One, if you're going to do well on Tinder, you're absolutely going to kill it. If you're going to get some results, you're going to get a whole ton. You're going to get more dates than you know what to do with. But two, if you're not doing well at all with Tinder, you're doing terribly and probably getting no dates and no results whatsoever. Unfortunately, the majority of men fit into the second category. And again, there tends to be two reasons for this. Number one is that you just have a terrible profile. Now, honestly, this is a really, really common situation. Forget your looks, forget your race, forget everything else that I'm going to talk about in this video. If your profile's bad, and it is for most guys, I mean, I've been doing this for a living for years now, helping guys with the online dating profiles. Most men have rubbish profiles that are never going to get many matches, even if they're decent looking. And you know, you can't blame men for this because no one's taught them how to create a great profile, how to create a profile that's going to attract women. But if you're in this situation, it doesn't matter what you've got going for you, you're just not going to get any matches online at all. If you'd like to learn more about this, I definitely recommend checking out some of my other videos, or even go ahead and check out my online course for online dating. The second reason is that you're just not a good fit for Tinder. Now, this can be due to a variety of reasons, which I'm going to talk about in this video today. But for the sake of this video, I'm speaking to you guys, the guys who have already taken the time to develop a good profile, but you're still not getting great results for a variety of reasons. I'm going to talk about what your alternatives are, why Tinder just isn't working for you. Okay, so why wouldn't Tinder be right for you? Well, let's get the elephant out of the room first, shall we? Let's talk about looks. Now, obviously, Tinder is a very looks-centric platform, so you need to be up there in the top 20% of photos at the very least to start getting some decent matches, ideally in the top 10% or above. Now, a lot of this will have to do with the quality of photos you pick as well, but genetics obviously is going to play a huge role. Now, something I need to mention when it comes to looks, a lot of guys have this false notion that you need to be super Chad, like toy worthy, like looking photos, right? And actually, that's not true at all. And I'm doing a series of experiments at the moment for a couple of videos I'll be doing on YouTube and a couple of videos I'll be making for my online course. But essentially, have a look at these two videos you can see in front of you right now. So you notice one of them is myself 5 years ago. I'm shirtless, in really great physical shape. You can see that I rank really highly in looks, a 9.8, I believe. And in the other photo is me more recently, like a few months ago, really skinny, but again, a really attractive photo, much slimmer. Notice that the attractive level is very similar for both of them, but the trust is really, really low in the super like alpha looking shot, where I'm really well built, shirtless, really dominant looking, compared to the other shot, right, where I have really high trust and really high assumed intelligence. Now, you might be interested to know that I get less than half the results with the Chad photo, the topless shot, as I do with the skinny slim shot. You might find that hard to believe, but I'm going to be posting this up in videos to come. It's not about that. It's about looking attractive, okay? Whatever that's going to be to the women you're trying to target. So that's just an interesting thing. But yes, attractiveness is a really important factor. I'm lucky that I've got attractive shots and I'm a relatively good looking guy. That means I can get results on Tinder, but you may not have that same luxury. The second thing is going to be your age. Now, the ideal age dating range for guys on Tinder is between 25 and 35. Now, look, if you're below 25, you can still get good results. Guys who are 24, 23, 22 are still going to do quite well. Once you get underneath that point, it does get harder. So why would this be? Well, first of all, the big deal is women generally prefer to date men who are older. That's not a definitive locked-in rule, but the rule is stronger the younger you are. So look, a guy who's 18 has a very limited number of women he can date because, you know, 19-year-old women would rather not date an 18-year-old guy, but they will. 20, even more so 21. By the time you get to a 23-year-old woman, she doesn't want to date an 18-year-old guy in the hole. It's just not going to happen. She wants to date a guy who's around her own age or older. So you've got a very limited range of women you can date. myself as a 36-year-old man, I can date a 25-year-old woman, someone 10 years younger, or I can date a 45-year-old woman, someone 10 years older, which is a 20-year age gap, right, that I've got. So I've also got a much larger range of women that I could date, although obviously I generally would rather date women younger than myself as well. So age is a factor. Now also, if you're older, now if you're over, let's say 40, you're really going to struggle. Now 36 as I am isn't too bad, I can still do fine. Once you hit 40 with Tinder, you're going to notice a really sharp drop-off in the results you can get. So I've made a video about that and how to work around that. Why that happens here, I'll link to it up there that you can go ahead and check out. But there's the age range gap. So if you don't fall in the right age range, that's going to be a problem. The next issue tends to be culture. Now, notice I don't say race, I say culture. And there's a very good reason for this. It's going to be a controversial opinion, but hear me out. When women see photos of guys from different nationalities, different racial backgrounds, the thing that can create a racial differentiator or a racial penalty, let's say, is often the culture they assume you're from, right? That is the personality that you're going to bring to the table based on your culture and how they feel about that personality. Now, I noticed this, to give a really great example. I use a USA example because a lot of my clients online are from America. If I've got a client who's African-American background, if he has a bunch of photos where he looks, because an African-American culture is a culture unto itself. It's still very Western, but it's got its own unique styles of talking, behavior, dress, all that kind of stuff. So if he puts up photos where he is looking very stereotypically African-American, so he's dressed in a way, he's doing activities that seem very African-American in culture, background, he's going to pay a 30 to 40% like penalty because of that culture that he's demonstrating. Because a lot of women don't want to date a guy in that culture, right? You can call that racist, you can call it lots of things, but let's call it culture conflict. Now, if that same guy dresses in a way that makes him look far more regular, don't call it white, let's just say average Western, middle class to upper middle class, just the activities he does, the way he's dressed, all that kind of stuff. If he's dressed like that, all of a sudden that 30 to 40% penalty goes down to like a 5 to 10% penalty. So it's a massive drop in culture, racial penalty that you pay. So I have the same thing with Chinese and Indian guys in Australia. They have the same kind of thing. They need to portray themselves in a way that doesn't make them look too much like they represent anything that's considered bad about the culture they're from. So you can call that lots of things, but there are ways around it, but culture definitely plays a role. Now, the fourth thing is personality. So what do I mean by that? If you are at heart and come across as a sweet, nice guy who's sort of more relationship style material, you've got a really great personality, you don't struggle with conversations with people, you're intelligent, but you're not very dominant, you're not very assertive, don't have a lot of experience with women, so you're not really a great conversationalist, you're a bit nervous around women, you're going to struggle on Tinder, right? And a lot of my online dating coaching is teaching men to get better at these skills so that they can perform really well on apps like Tinder. But the truth is, if that's how you are right now, you're going to struggle to get any results on Tinder. And oftentimes, as a result, too, your photos are going to portray you just like the culture stuff, but they're going to portray you to be that kind of man. You're just going to look like a sweet, nice guy who's too nice to be like, a turn on for the women who are on Tinder who want assertive, dominant men on the whole, on average. That's what those women are looking for. So if you fit into any of those categories, that may well be that you're not a good match. So to understand what types of clientele are going to be drawn to certain types of apps, you just got to think about the way that the apps are designed. So, if you think about real life, right, no matter where you go in the dating realm, looks are going to play a role. They're going to be the first point of interest, right? So if I walk up to a woman in a bar and she thinks I'm absolutely hideous, it doesn't matter what I do or say, I'm probably never going to convince her to want to date me. Flip-wise, if I'm a really, really good-looking guy, I'm going to have to do a lot to screw things up to make her not want to date me. But if I instead fall into the category most guys fall into, which is like, right? Which is like that middle ground of I'm not like head over heels and I don't absolutely hate him. If you fall into that middle ground for a woman's tastes, you can do a lot with your personality to make up for it. Now, when you go to online dating, your personality, it's harder to demonstrate personality. So looks becomes more important, personality diminishes in importance. But certain apps, they behave in a way that makes it more likely that people are going to become extra superficial, right? So an app like Tinder, where it's left, right, left, right, left, right, left, is going to be really, really superficial. And of course, Tinder is the king of superficiality. When you go to an app like Bumble, on the other hand, it's still going to be quite superficial because you've got the left, right thing. But you get a twist. Because in an app like Bumble, what you get is you get women who are more assertive, right? Why do you get that? Because of the way it's designed. See, on Bumble, women have to take the first move. And not only that, if they don't make the first move soon, the whole conversation will be erased, or the whole match will be erased, and they won't be able to talk with you ever again. So Bumble suits itself to women who want to take action and want to take action now, and they don't want to dick around. So Bumble can be really great. In fact, sometimes can be better for one-night stands than Tinder. But more than that, for guys who are shy about making the first move, or guys who are a bit more shy, women on Bumble, I find, are more forgiving of this than women on Tinder. So it's still quite superficial, but it can be more forgiving to guys who are a bit more shy or a bit less experienced, because women who like taking action will go there. Now, I do know plenty of women who hate Bumble for exactly this reason, because they want the guys who are more assertive and dominant. So it tends to act as a bit of a filter. Another app to consider is Hinge. Now, Hinge is really great because it markets itself purposely as a relationship app. So that doesn't mean that people don't have hookups on Hinge. I know plenty of guys having plenty of hookups on Hinge, but the women that it's drawing to itself, just by virtue of the fact that the way it markets itself and the way it forces you to set up profiles, that is, it puts more importance on personality by asking interesting questions and getting you to give interesting questions, answers to those questions, forcing you to respond to a part of a woman's profile with what she's written. When you first contact women and all that kind of stuff, it creates a more relationship style dynamic. So what that means, what does it mean? Well, it means that the highly superficial women aren't on Hinge as often. They tend to go to things like Tinder, and some of them go to Bumble. So Hinge tends to be less, or significantly less, superficial than Tinder or Bumble, more so than in real life, but less so than the other two competition. The other thing too is, if you're looking for a relationship or you're more relationship material and you want to use a phone dating app, I'd highly recommend Hinge over the other two, if it's popular in your area. Unfortunately, Hinge doesn't have market saturation like the other two do, but in areas like Sydney, New York, where it's really big, I highly recommend it for guys who maybe don't have as great like genetic gifts in their profiles, but who still have a really solid looking profile. Hinge can be a really great option for you there. Now, if looks is a serious impediment to you, or age or culture is a serious impediment to you, like a really big one, you just find that you can't do well on any of the dating apps, because remember, swiping apps are always going to be really superficial. Doesn't matter which ones they are, they're going to be the worst offenders. So then we start to have a look at other options. Now, if looks is a really big problem for you, this is what I recommend. I recommend you check out Zoosk or Badoo or plentyoffish.com. Same thing as well if racial, cultural issues are really big hindrances to you. These apps are way more forgiving. Now, I should mention that these are also online dating apps as well. So the online dating programs as well as phone apps. But the thing is, you're going to find the quality of the women is going to be lower, and you're going to have a slightly worse flaking problem as a result as well. But for guys who are less attractive, it's going to be easy to find women in your attraction range to pick up, date, and go out with, because they're not competing on Tinder, they're not doing so well on Tinder, so they go to other options. Where do they go? They go to Zoosk, Badoo, and POF, Plenty of Fish. So I'd honestly recommend those. Same thing for culture clash. If you're noticing massive culture clash, you will notice on these apps, for that reason, you're going to get far more high percentage of ethnic women, women who are white, essentially. You will get white women too, of course, but you're going to get far more, depending where you live, right? Asian, black, Hispanic, right? Kind of depends on where you're living and how this whole thing, Arabic, depends on where you live, how that plays out, but you're going to get far fewer white women, a far greater proportion of other nationalities. So that's what I recommend for those guys. Now, if age is an issue for you, right? In other words, if you're old, if you're too young, you don't have a lot of options. You're still better off like sticking with one of those phone dating apps, because really young girls on the whole aren't on online dating websites. But if you're over 40 or you're looking for a long-term relationship, I'm telling you right now, forget the phone apps. You're going to have to go to websites, dedicated dating websites focused on long-term relationships. So I highly recommend eharmony or Match.com. Now, both of these cost money, but honestly, when it comes down to it, if you're looking for a long-term relationship, or you're over 40, if you can't afford that, if you're not looking to spend that small amount of money, like on dating, I think you're kind of selling yourself short, or you've got other things you need to worry about. You see, women over 40 tend to not use mobile apps. And mobile apps don't suit men over 40 so well either. You can still compete in some circumstances, but again, it's much, much harder. Going onto these online dating apps is much better for long-term relationships, and I know that can be a struggle if you're over 40, but if you're over 40 and you're looking for casual fun, I'd honestly say you're going to have to start approaching women in real life, right? Going to events in real life where you're going to meet single women to hit on, because just the online world isn't so well suited unless you're looking for more long-term relationship style websites. Now, of course, there are many other online dating apps, online dating websites, mobile phone apps out there. We know there are plenty. I've kind of just talked about a few of the major ones. Why? Because again, you need market saturation. So I'm trying to, find solutions for the greatest market possible here. If there are other options that you think I really should have talked about, by all means, let me know in the comments below. Now, I do want to let you know as well that, of course, I am a coach. I do teach professionally online dating. I offer one-on-one consultation sessions, and I also have an online School of Tinder dating program, which I highly recommend you check out. I'll post a link up here or a link down below. But feel free to get in contact with me as well if you'd like some one-on-one coaching in this area. As always, guys, if you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and click the little bell icon so you don't miss out on any of my future videos. I hope you have the best of luck with your online dating. I'm Damien. I look forward to seeing you in my future videos.